Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the past 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Okay, so let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Hi, Nick. I got my blood work done, and it shows that I'm deficient in B12. What can I do to help bring up my B12 levels? My doctor's appointment isn't until another 3 weeks, so I'd like to get it started now. So if you're deficient in vitamin B12, first thing you can do is you can supplement with vitamin B12. That's one thing you can do. You can go to the drugstore, pick up a bottle of vitamin B12 and start supplementing with it. I would start off at maybe about two times 50 milligram caps a day just to start to help bring those levels up. And then you can kind of play around with that as you go when you go back for more blood work. A second thing I would do is I would start eating more foods that are rich in vitamin B12. So Greek yogurt, whey isolate, fish. Fish is loaded with B12. There's eggs. So that's the one thing I'd be doing too, is I'd be supplementing with a lot of food that's very high in vitamin B12. And that's a simple Google search. There's tons of foods that are high and rich in vitamin B12. Dairy, a lot of foods that are dairy, for example, has a lot of B12, but of course you got to limit your dairy intake. So I wouldn't recommend just going overboard with dairy, but cottage cheese, for example, that's a great source of vitamin B12 as well. So if you're going to pick a few foods off the top of my head, I would think that Greek yogurt's great. Cottage cheese, as I mentioned, whey isolate, and fish. Pretty much every type of fish is loaded with B12. Another thing you could do, go for B12 injections. So there's places around here in Vancouver. We've got quite a few of these clinics around now where you can go for vitamin B12 shots. That will be a little bit more efficient than actually taking it in oral form, because it'll go right into your bloodstream. So that's another option. But at the end of the day, what I would wait to talk to your doctor and see, how deficient are those levels? If it's something that's just borderline deficient, I wouldn't worry too much, and you can probably just supplement with something over the counter, take the foods that I recommend, and then even go for a B12 shot once every 2-3 weeks, and that should bring the levels back up. Now, obviously, if that doesn't bring the levels back up, then you might have to go on something more stronger, more prescription-based. But that's something for you and your doctor to talk about. And the only way to truly know is once you've done everything, once they say you've done your supplementations, you've done your B12 shots, you're starting to eat foods that are high in B12, I would go back for blood work anywhere from 3 to 6 months after your current tests and see what those levels are up or down or about the same. And if they're down or about the same, then yeah, you might want to supplement with something a little bit stronger. That's something your doctor would talk to you about. So that's my recommendation. Use oral supplements, go for a B12 shot, and supplement with foods that are high in vitamin B12. Like I said, cottage cheese, whey isolate, omega-3 eggs, pretty much every fish out there. If you are vegetarian, go for something like tempeh. That's pretty good as well. So look for foods that are high in B12. All right, next question. Nick, lately I've been feeling really droopy and dopey these days. Between work and my relationship, things seem to be harder than usual. Would love to get to the gym. I just have zero motivation right now. Is this a sign of low testosterone? I'm 41 years old. It could be a sign of low testosterone. You're at that age where a lot of men start to notice changes in their bodies, where they start to notice that maybe the libido goes down a little bit, their energy levels start to drop. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times that does have to do with testosterone levels decreasing as we get older. Again, the only way to truly know this is if you go for blood work, though. But if your blood work shows that your testosterone levels are on the lower end, that's time to consider potentially going on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. And again, that's something to talk about with your doctor. Now, most of my clients know I'm a huge advocate of TRT therapy. I think it's great, especially if your levels are low. But you have to make sure that you're monitoring those levels with a doctor. So if you are on TRT, you should be going for regular blood work just to make sure that your blood pressure is not too high, making sure that your blood sugar levels are stable, and just making sure that everything, your hemoglobin levels, your red blood cell count, everything is normal. So that's one thing that you can keep into consideration if you do go on TRT therapy. But overall, when it comes to the symptoms you're noticing, it might not be low testosterone levels, right? You could be just suffering from low energy levels because it could be diet, could be stress. So there could be multiple factors. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's low testosterone, but it very well could be. So the only way to do that, go ask your doctor and get a requisition form and go get the blood work done. That's the first sign to tell you if your testosterone levels are low, because the blood work doesn't lie. And if they're low, then you might want to consider going on TRT moving forward. Now there's different ways to go on TRT. Like, for example, that I know a lot of people like using the gel. I wouldn't recommend using the gel personally. I find that can really make your testosterone levels fluctuate throughout the week. I find an injection works best for most people. But this is nothing that's, I think a lot of guys are embarrassed to talk about. And I get a lot of questions in my inbox about TRT therapy. And I say, guys, go get your levels checked. Okay, there's nothing to be ashamed about. If you have low testosterone levels, go on TRT therapy. If you don't want to go on TRT, if you don't want to go on testosterone replacement therapy, then you can look at other ways of maybe bringing those levels up naturally, using something like horny goatweed, tribulus. But in my personal opinion, I really don't think those over-the-counter supplements do much. I really don't. So if your levels are low, talk to your doctor, but TRT is a good it's a good way to go about your health, because it's not healthy to have low testosterone levels, right? Same time, you don't want your testosterone levels to be too high either. So you don't, like I said, you don't want to throw off your hemoglobin levels. You don't want to create havoc with your red blood cell count. You want to stabilize blood sugar levels. You want to keep your blood pressure low. So you've got to make sure you monitor that. Okay. Now, obviously, you don't have to go for blood work if you want to get your blood pressure taken. You just walk into a drugstore and get your blood pressure taken yourself. Same thing with blood sugar. You can check that, get a blood sugar monitor, check that yourself daily. So those are things you don't need to go to a doctor for. But I would be monitoring that if you are deciding to go on TRT. Okay. So again, not necessarily a sign that your levels are low, but if you are concerned, go and get blood work done. Okay. That's the only way you're going to know if your testosterone levels are low. Okay. Hi, Nick. I've been working out with weights consistently for just over a year now, 4 times each week. I like the amount of muscle I've added, but can't seem to get rid of my belly. Should I start doing cardio to help get rid of this, or is this more diet related? I don't have the best diet, but not sure which one I should focus on first, diet or cardio. Why not focus on both? I mean, if you're weight training 4 times a week, add an extra 20 minutes of cardio at the end of your workout. You know, a 20-minute jog on the treadmill, or 20 minutes on the elliptical trainer, 20 minutes on the spin bike, just to get your heart rate up a little bit, right? And I talked about this last week on the channel. Weight training is great, but it doesn't really hit our cardio respiratory system the same way that a cardiovascular workout would, right? So if you're worried about the fact that you're not maybe losing as much body fat as you'd like, I would start adding in a little bit more cardiovascular training to your workouts. Now, if that means that you have to take out 15, 20 minutes of weight training, so be it. Do it. What I would be looking at too would be your diet though. So again, I don't work with you, so I don't know what your diet looks like, but diet is usually key. I know a lot of people that train really hard in the gym. They lift heavy in the gym, they lift intense in the gym, but they've got a layer of fat covering their midsection, or they've got, fat on their thighs, or they've got fat in their glutes. And they say, oh, I've done everything, I can't get rid of it. I'm like, well, have you done everything? I mean, you're doing everything in the gym, but are you doing everything in the kitchen? Okay, so diet really is key. And I've spoken about this in the past too, when I first started competing in bodybuilding shows, is that I didn't know a thing about dietary nutrition, and I knew how to train, but I didn't know how to eat. So I would really, really struggle to get lean for shows, because I had no idea how to eat properly. I knew how to train, I knew how to do my cardio, but when it came to the nutrition component, I had no idea what I was doing. So I was taking in far too many carbohydrates. I wasn't taking in enough healthy fats, and my protein levels were not of good quality sources. My micronutrients and my protein were not quality. So once I learned how to eat properly, my physique transformed. So diet really is key. But I would be looking at both. I always think it's good to do a little bit of cardio. I mean, I personally do cardio. I don't do it for weight loss purposes. I just do it for overall health benefits. But I think it's good to implement some cardiovascular training in addition to your weight training. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be 3-4 times a week, like you're doing with the weights, 15-20 minutes, but just something to get your heart rate up at a steady rate, and keep it there for 15-20 minutes. If you throw that in with addition of cleaning up your diet, you should notice that belly starts to go down. And as a reminder, if you are looking for someone to help you with your diet, I offer nutritional consultations. I work with people online all the time on my online coaching app, designing customized nutritional plans and training programs that are designed specifically for the individual that I'm working with. So if you have any questions on that, you can also email me, nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can also DM me my Instagram, @fitcosgrove_, and I'm happy to help you. All right, let's get next question. Hey, Nick, my wedding is coming up in May, and I was wondering if you think it's realistic to lose 30 pounds in 3 months. I'm currently 5'10" and weigh 226 pounds. I would like to weigh in around 195 pounds for my wedding. Realistic, yes, but healthy and sustainable, no. I mean, listen, it's easy. I've said this time and time again. Losing weight is not difficult to do at all, but losing body fat while preserving muscle, completely different, okay? Anyone can go into a caloric deficit, do 2 hours of cardio a day, and you'll probably lose 3 or 4 pounds a week. Hell, you could even lose 1 pound a day if you're really going to a severe caloric deficit and burning more calories per day. Of course, it's 3,500 calories in a pound, so you could do that. So losing 30 pounds in 3 months is realistic, but A, not healthy, and B, not sustainable. Because if you lose weight too quickly, unless you're someone who's very overweight, which by the sounds of it doesn't sound like you're very overweight at all, let's say someone who's morbidly obese, yes, losing 30 pounds in 3 months, hell, losing 30 pounds in 2 months, that's realistic and it's somewhat healthy because that person has so much weight to lose. But if you're someone who's, let's say your body fat's sitting at about 24%, you're not crazy obese, right? You're overweight, you're chubby. So losing that much weight that quickly, that can be detrimental to your health. And it's very hard to be able to sustain that weight loss once you've gotten there. And the reason why that is because if you lose 30 pounds in 3 months, and let's say you go on this crash course diet and you're doing 2-3 hours of cardio a day, you're training with weights every day, watching every little thing that goes into your mouth, and then when you hit your weight loss goal, you're telling me that you're going to be able to continue to do that for the remainder of your life, the way that you got down to that weight loss goal? Probably not. Nobody's going to be able to do that, right? It's not realistic. So you might get down to that goal, but you're not going to be able to sustain it. So what I try to do with my clients is get them down to a weight loss goal where they feel good. And I always say to them, like, what weight would look good to you in your opinion? And it's not always, people are sometimes they're not too sure, or people have a good idea, but then what happens is once we get them down to that goal, they're like, hey, you know what, I'd like to go down another 5-6 pounds, or they say, I feel like I look too scrawny, and then we'll put them up a little bit more weight too. So it's good to have an actual goal in mind as, okay, I'd like my weight to be, in your case, 195, whatever it is. But don't be surprised if you get to, let's say, 200, and you're like, hey, you know what, I really like the way I'm looking right now. I'm good with that. Okay, so don't always get so focused on the scale. But at the same time, you have to be careful because take it from someone who's done this before, who's done crash course diets and got myself ready for shows in 3-4 weeks. It's a nightmare for your body. It's a nightmare, and it wreaks havoc on your body. So is it realistic? Yes, but again, it's not healthy and it's not sustainable. Losing that much weight that quickly, you're going to feel like crap. You're going to mess up your metabolism. You're going to mess up your hormone levels. You're going to have hormonal imbalances, especially if you're a woman. So the best way to lose weight, in my opinion, is aim for that 2 to 3 pounds per week. That to me is perfect. And I know, you hear a lot of nutritionists and dietitians and trainers and coaches say the same thing, but we all say the same thing because we know it works. And we know it's healthy, we know it's realistic, and most importantly, we know it's sustainable. So aim for that 2 to 3 pounds per week. In your case, 3 months, that's 15 pounds. If you do that, you'll notice that by doing that, you're giving yourself a good, say 12 weeks to lose that weight. If you lose 15 pounds in 12 weeks, that's just over a pound a week. If you lose maybe 24 pounds, it's 2 pounds a week, you're getting close to that 30-pound mark, but you're making sure that you're doing it in a healthy manner. You're not restricting your calories too much. You're not overtraining your body. You're not overtaxing your system. So it's just like landing a plane, nice and smooth. Don't go nose crash into the ground, right? Nice and smooth. And then once you get to that weight loss goal, you'll be able to sustain that goal. So that's what's important, okay? So again, losing 30 pounds in 12 weeks, is it realistic? Absolutely. Is it healthy? Absolutely not. Is it sustainable? Definitely not. Hey, Nick, do you ever get frustrated when your clients don't listen to you? And what do you tell your clients when they're not achieving results because they are not following the plan you have laid out for them? When I first started training people, yes, I would get frustrated when people would not listen to me, because I would be thinking to myself, well, why are you paying for my services and my expertise in a subject that I know quite a bit about when it comes to dietary nutrition and training as a whole? You're paying for my expertise, you're paying for all my advice, you're paying for my training programs, my nutritional plans, and yet you're not listening to me. So when I first got started, yes, I would get frustrated with that. But as I've evolved as a trainer, as a business owner, and I have more experience working in this industry, I no longer get mad. I no longer get frustrated. The way I look at it is that we're all adults, right? My clients are not children. They don't need me to babysit them. I don't chase people down for their weekly check-ins. I don't call people and go, where were you this morning? You missed your session. If someone misses a workout and I haven't heard from them, I might text them or just send them an email and say, hey, hope everything was okay. But I don't ask them where they were or what they were doing. It's none of my business. They slept in, they're hungover, that's their business. Same with my weekly check-ins. I have people who sometimes miss their weekly check-ins on Tuesdays and Fridays. I don't contact them and chase them down. Go, hey, you missed your weekly check-in. What's going on? I mean, if you're going to college, the professor doesn't ask you for your homework. You hand it in. You hand in your assignments, right? You don't hand it in, you fail, right? That's on you. You're an adult. So same thing. I try my best to hold my clients accountable, but I'm not going to chase them down and say, hey, you've got to get to your workouts or you have to do your check-ins. No, that's their responsibility. It's my job as the coach to show up, though. So I always show up for my sessions. I'm never late. I never call in sick. I'm never hungover for my sessions. I'm there. So if someone's not there, that's on them. They're paying me for that hour. So the way I look at it from a business standpoint is, regardless if someone shows up for the session or not, I mean, I still get paid. So it's not affecting my business. Yeah, I sometimes feel bad for other clients who may have wanted that time slot, and I'm just at the gym now cleaning up or doing emails because the person's canceled last minute or hasn't showed up. So in that case, I feel bad for other people, but no, I don't get upset. And when it comes to people, whether they listen to my advice or not, if they're not taking my advice, there's not much I can do about it. I do think it's quite hilarious if someone is paying me for my time to design a program for them, yet they're not listening to what I'm telling them to do. And yeah, if they don't get the results, I just repeat and say, follow the plan. And most people know if they're not following the plan, they're not getting the results, they don't blame me. I've never had a client blame me for their lack of results. They usually take full responsibility for their lack of results, because they know that if they were to implement the plan that I put into place for them, that they will achieve those results. So as I said, I work with adults. I don't work with kids. I'm not going to chase you down for your weekly check-ins. I'm not going to chase you down and start calling your phone and blowing up your phone saying, where were you this morning? Why did you miss your workout? No. People know they have a session with me at 7 a.m., 9 a.m. They know their time, right? That's it. Obviously, things come up in life, right? People miss sessions. People are sick. I get it. But again, we're all adults. So do I get frustrated with people that don't listen to me? Not anymore. But when I first started training, yes, I used to get frustrated. I used to get frustrated when people wouldn't show up for my sessions. But those days are long gone. Now I'm just like, well, that's up to the person. I need to focus now on getting ready for my next session, or use my time wisely in the gym, do some emails, work on the social media, do the Q&A, whatever I can. So no, I don't get frustrated anymore. It's just, I still try my best to provide the absolute best coaching service I can to the clients that do want to work with me and the clients that do want to listen to me. Okay. Hi, Nick. I know you recommend using bone broth, but was wondering if there is a particular brand you recommend. I think you had said that the one you are currently using is powder form. Thank you. The brand I'm using right now is called, I believe it's Organica. And yeah, you know, the powdered bone broth, I spoke about this a few months ago, because I had a lot of questions on bone broth. I think it was back in November. A lot of people were DMing me questions on bone broth. And what I like taking the powdered form of bone broth is A, it's convenient, and B, it has all the exact same nutrients. It actually even has more nutrients than if you were to do the bone broth yourself, right? And it's just, bone broth is time consuming. It can be messy to make, and just get the powdered form. Organica is, there's other brands out there, but in my opinion, Organica is one of the best. It's got best reviews. It's a good brand. It's a little bit more expensive than other bone broth powders, but I promise you, if you read the back label and you read the nutrients, it's packed full of vitamins and minerals. And so that's why I recommend using that particular brand. When it comes to using anything, whether it's a food product or supplements, I always tell people don't cheap out, because there is a difference, right? If you're buying a generic, okay, let's use the whey protein powder, for example. Well, you're buying a basic whey protein powder because it's cheaper than a whey isolate. You can do that. I've got people that do that all the time, but you're kidding yourself if you're thinking it's the exact same thing. It's not. There's a reason why whey isolate is $80 and whey concentrate is $40 or $50. Okay, you're talking about a higher quality product. Okay, so same thing with the bone broth. So the brand I use is called Organica. That's actually the same brand I use for my collagen powder as well. Collagen powder I just throw into my oatmeal in the morning, and the bone broth I usually have as my last meal of the day. Well, it's not really a meal, but it's the last thing I drink before I go to bed. And it's 1 scoop in a cup, boiling hot water. Takes about 2 minutes to boil the water, another 2 minutes to drink. Done. Easy. Doesn't have much taste to it. Doesn't taste bad. Doesn't taste good, but just gets the job done. And I find it's really easy to travel with, because you can just bring your powder with you, so you don't have to cook in the kitchen or something. If you're traveling, say you're in a hotel or something, just bring your bone broth powder with you, and you're not getting any less nutrients out of getting the powder than you would if you were to cook it yourself. Okay, so Organica bone broth is what I use, and they have chicken and beef flavors. I think they might have another flavor. I'm not too sure, but the flavors I go back and forth between are chicken and beef. You use either. All right. Okay. Hi, Nick. I saw you had a wisdom tooth pulled the other day in your Instagram story. I have to have all 4 of my wisdom teeth extracted next month. Just curious as to how long you had to take off from training in the gym and how bad the pain was. I had my wisdom tooth up here taken out on Monday afternoon. It actually took about an hour because I had a really long tooth here. And unfortunately for me, I have really healthy teeth. My dentist says my teeth are great. They're in great shape. But he said the problem with that, it was really hard to actually pull the tooth out. So I didn't feel a thing, actually. They froze me, so I didn't feel a thing at all. It was painless. Afterwards, it was a little bit more painful. I mean, once the freezing wore off and the drugs they gave me were gone, it started to hurt a little bit. But I took a little bit of Advil, and it was just like uncomfortable for a few days. As far as training, I just took the rest of the day off from training because they advised prior to the actual surgery, no exercise afterwards. And then I was back in the gym the next day. And I did a very light arm workout, so I didn't push it too extreme, because they do tell you, your first few days, it's kind of like when I had the vasectomy, they recommend you don't go crazy in the gym right away. So after any surgery, right, you want to pace yourself. So I did an arm workout. Arm workouts are usually the easiest workouts, so I took the easiest workout, did that. But earlier today, I trained legs and I felt great, so no problem at all. Still a little bit of discomfort. I mean, I only had 1 done, so you're getting all 4 done, so that might be a little bit more painful. But yeah, I was back in the gym the next day, and I was taking 2 Advil, extra strength Advil, 400 milligrams each, every 6 hours. So that's 800 milligrams of Advil, which is a little bit high and a little bit more than I'd like to take, but it's only for 2 days, so it's not very much. And then I'm on, I think, day 3 now, and I feel fine. So no problem on my end. I have heard horror stories, though, for people who've had wisdom teeth taken out. I've heard about dry socket and some really adverse side effects. I actually didn't even get my entire tooth pulled out because my roots are so strong. They're still actually engraved in my gum, but my dentist didn't want to drill anymore because he said it's too close to my sinus. So he said it should be fine, leave it alone. But yeah, it wasn't the most pleasant experience, but honestly, it was completely painless. And I should have done it sooner. I just kept putting it off, but I'm glad it's done. And my teeth are still in great shape. So definitely if you have to get your wisdom teeth taken out, get them taken out, because they can cause tons of problems down in the future, right? And as far as taking time off the gym, if your dentist advises you to take 2 or 3 days off from training, that's fine. You're not going to miss much from taking that time off, but kind of feel it out. My recommendation is when you do go back to the gym, do a very low impact workout, maybe an easier workout like I did, the arm workout, and you should be fine. Okay. Sorry, I lost my spot here. Okay, here we go. Hey, Nick, from a health perspective, how often each week do you think someone should be having sex? Are there really any health benefits to regular sex? There are numerous health benefits to regular sex, right? And I wrote a whole blog about this a few months ago about the health benefits of having sex, right? And overall, I mean, regular sex puts you in a great mood, in my opinion. I mean, it's a great way to de-stress. So I don't think you can put a number and say you should be having sex this many times per week. But in my opinion, I think you should be having sex every day. Why not? I mean, if you can have sex every day, have sex every day. Sex is great for us, right? It's great for our mental health. It's great for our physical health. I mean, it's a good workout too. If you're doing very vigorous sex and going for long marathon sex, I mean, why not? Yeah. I don't see any really negative effects of having sex too often. Now, I mean, who you choose or how many partners you're having sex with, that's your business. But if you're asking me from a health perspective, if I think sex is healthy, absolutely. I think sex is great. I think it helps, like I said, it's great for our mental health. It's great for our physical health. It makes people feel better about themselves. I believe it actually gives us more energy. It allows us to sleep better. So yeah, and like I said, it's a great way to decrease your stress levels. So it helps keep cortisol levels low, which everyone knows if your cortisol levels are high, that can really have negative impacts on both your mental and physical health. It can make it more challenging to lose body fat. It can cause tons of problems with your immune system. So I'm a firm believer that stress can make people sick. I think stress can cause certain cancers. So yeah, I think sex overall is incredibly healthy for us. And I think if you can have sex every day, have sex every day, because it's honestly, again, this is my personal opinion. I can't see any problem with having sex, no adverse side effects, except it's fun. Do it, healthy, absolutely. Have sex. All right. I think, we got one more question. Nick, what's the fastest meats to meal prep with? I'm bored with chicken and it's so messy to clean up afterwards. Steak is easy, but I'm trying to limit my red meat intake. Smart man, definitely limit your red meat intake. Before I answer that question, I want to talk about red meat. Years ago, I was at the Cancer Society and I was talking to one of the doctors. And I remember this was with regards to colon cancer. And I was asking, because I have colon cancer that runs in my family. And I remember I was talking to him like, hey, is there anything I can do to help prevent my chances of developing colon cancer as I get older? And he asked me how much red meat I eat. And at the time, I think I was eating red meat probably about 5 times a week. And he said, if you can just eliminate red meat from your diet as a whole, you will improve your odds of not getting colon cancer dramatically. And so I did a little research on that, and actually he was right. So I've spoken about this in the past. For myself personally, I don't eat any red meat. I never touch it. Now that's just because I have a family history of colon cancer, so I avoid red meat. But I still put red meat on people's nutritional plans. But I always tell my clients, if you're going to have red meat, limit that red meat intake to once or twice per week. Okay, don't do more than that. Anyway, so that's just my little rant about red meat. So regardless if you have a history of colon cancer or not, you should be very careful with red meat because it is very hard on the digestive tract. So my recommendation is if you are going to consume red meat, keep it to once or twice a week max, and try to keep it to lean sources of red meat, flank steak, extra lean ground beef, bison. Try to stay away from the ribeyes, the fatty steaks, the fatty meats. Those aren't good. So the fastest meats to cook, honestly, fish Fish is easy, it's fast, and it's delicious. So right now, as I'm doing this weekly Q&A, I've got a fillet of salmon and a fillet of cod, or little fillets of cod, cooking in my oven. I just put a tinfoil on a baking tray, put the fish on top, put another wrap top of tinfoil, put another piece of tinfoil on top of the fish, wrap it up, and I let it cook for about 15-20 minutes. And honestly, like, the cleanup is easy because you just take the fish out. I divvy it all up into my different meals for the week, and there's not really any cleanup because all the oil from the fish and any other leftover like residue from the fish is on the tinfoil. Pull up the tinfoil, throw in the garbage. Baking tray is clean. But I do wash the baking tray as well, but that's because I'm OCD. But you really probably don't even have to wash the baking tray. So fish is easy, fish is quick. Chicken, I know what you mean with chicken. It does get a little bit boring. And also chicken can be messy too, especially if you're grilling it. I don't like to bake the chicken. I've always liked to grill the chicken. I like to bake fish, but I'd like to grill the chicken. And it was always a pain in the ass to clean afterwards because there's not much fat in chicken breasts and it always gets stuck to the grill. So that can be a little bit more time consuming to clean. And so, yeah, I switched over to fish. Well, I switched over to fish for 6 months of the year anyway. And I usually do that in the winter. So not necessarily for the cleanup, but it does make food prep much, much easier because I don't really even have to watch over it. It just cooks in the oven. And then once it's done, I just take it out, divvy it up. It takes like 5 minutes and I've got like 12 meals. Anyway, I think that is the last question, unless I thought, oh, no, there is one more question. Sorry, I had one more question there. Okay, so last question. Nick, what do you think about Health Canada's latest recommendation when it comes to weekly alcohol consumption? Okay, so I think what happened with that, I've had a lot of questions on that from clients in-house. So this is a good question. I think when Health Canada's put out their last recommendations when it came to alcohol consumption, I think they were saying 2 drinks per day, I think. And now, from everything I've read, it's 2 drinks per week. Now, as someone who drinks once to twice a week, I don't drink every day, but I do have 1 or 2 days a week where I like to drink, and I'll typically have 2 or 3 drinks. This is something that now I'm looking at and thinking, okay, well, maybe it's something that I should be limiting my intake because there's a lot of studies backing these recommendations and these guidelines. I know a lot of people say this is too extreme. And for the average person, it is, because I believe the studies show that 80% of Canadians over the age of 15 do drink alcohol, which that number shocked me. It was a little high, but that's the number I recently read given out by Health Canada. So what I think is going to happen from this is I think a few things. I think the younger generation is going to view this and they're going to be really watching their overall alcohol intake. As far as the older generation, let's say the baby boomers, my generation, I don't think many people will be paying much attention to this. I think they're going to continue to drink as they usually drink. People might be a little bit more mindful, but I don't think it's going to really impact their drinking habits. What I do think, though, should happen is that alcohol in general should come with a warning label. And not just alcohol. I also believe that certain foods like, Oreo cookies, any breakfast cereal should come with warning labels and say, hey, this can cause certain cancers. So will that happen? Probably not. But should it happen? Definitely. Because I do believe that if you were to go to the liquor store and you picked up a bottle of gin and it said, may cause cancer, something on that guideline, that might, it might stick with someone and say, well, do I really want to pick this up? And maybe they do, but then they might be thinking in the back of their mind, maybe I should dilute this. Instead of having a double, I should have a single. And I've said this for years. I think they should do this with foods, because I see parents feeding their kids these shitty cereals, like the friggin' Lucky Charms that I mentioned on 2 weeks ago on the weekly Q&A, and Frosted Flakes and all this crap. And I'm like, man, this shit is so bad. And these people are feeding their kids. So I think they should slap warning labels on all these cereals and these pastries and frozen meats and processed meats and all this crap. They should be throwing warning labels on that too, but they won't. And they won't because these big food corporations pay lots of money in taxes. So the government doesn't want to fuck with that. And so same thing with alcohol. It doesn't surprise me that these studies have come out, because I've said for years that, you have to really be careful with alcohol consumption. We know that there are links with alcohol and certain cancers. This is nothing new. I think it's just getting a little bit more attention now because Health Canada has come out and they said, hey, look, studies suggest that you should be limiting your alcoholic intake to twice per week. But this has been out for a few weeks now, and I had a lot of people on the floor asking me my opinion on it. And I don't really have an opinion on it. I've never said that alcohol is good for you. I personally don't think 1 or 2 drinks every once in a while is going to do have any adverse side effects. I think binge drinking obviously will. I think if you're drinking every day, that can definitely have adverse side effects, not only on your physical health, but also your mental health. So I don't think it's a game changer for a lot of people. But at the same time, I think as the younger generation, I'm talking like the kids who are in high school right now, maybe the kids who are in their early 20s now, and they're seeing this and they're becoming more mindful. So I think it's good in that case, because I think each generation gets a little bit smarter, right? So I think you're going to see a lot more people entering into their mid to late 20s, and you're going to see alcohol consumption go down. But as far as the baby boomers in my generation, I honestly don't think this is going to have any impact whatsoever on alcohol sales. A lot of people drank more during COVID. We got a lot of people become alcoholics during COVID. I don't think that's going to change. But I do think that alcohol should come with a warning label. And I do think that all these foods, all these processed foods, all these cereals, all these frozen meats, you can buy these spring rolls in a box that stays good for 10 years. I think all that stuff should come with warning labels. That's my personal opinion. And it should say, this food can cause these types of cancers. It doesn't say that they will, but it says can cause. And all of a sudden, you might see a lot less people purchasing those foods for their kids or for themselves. Anyway, that's my rant. Guys, this weekly Q&A will be going up on Wednesday afternoon. Reminder, if you do have any questions with regards to your nutritional plan, training program, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com or DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Hey guys, that's it for this week. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel, and have a great week. And I will see you all next week. Bye for now.